So Death Stranding is easily one of my most anticipated games. It's definitely my most anticipated PS4 exclusive. I am a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and I have been for many, many years. And so for me, I am really intrigued by what I'm seeing with Death Stranding. It is a little bit frustrating at times when watching trailers, which I'll probably have some playing in the background, to try to figure out what exactly this game is, because there's no denying that Kojima makes it extremely difficult to really grasp what the game is going to be about. I mean, we definitely have some idea, but I think gamers are just definitely more than ready to see some significant gameplay of Death Stranding. I think that's probably the biggest question right now. But we did get some interesting information regarding the development of Death Stranding, and I think you guys might find it interesting. I know I find it interesting because something that's been talked about for a little while now is the potential of Death Stranding releasing in 2019. Now, a lot of people are looking forward to Days Gone and Dreams, but as of right now, there's no release date for other big hitter games like Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and The Last of Us Part 2. And we did talk about how apparently there is a supposed leak that may or may not be true, hinting at the fact that, or just outright claiming that The Last of Us Part 2 is set to release this October, which is definitely plausible. But again, a lot of people, I think, had this idea that Death Stranding was going to be the big game that launches in 2019 for Sony. There are some people who maybe anticipate that both of these games are going to launch before the end of this year. I don't think that's going to happen, honestly, nor do I think it should happen. I think these bigger games like Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima definitely need some breathing room. I mean, there's no doubt that these are huge games and they do not need to be stepping on each other's toes. I think Sony's well aware of that. But the information I have here, it has to do with Death Stranding's release date and how apparently Kojima has confirmed that Death Stranding is a little bit behind schedule. So let's read some of it here. It says, despite having been announced some time ago, we have seen very little of the actual Death Stranding gameplay. In a recent interview, Hideo Kojima has finally revealed some additional details on the experience, which seems like it will follow in the footsteps of Metal Gear Solid 5 in some way, which to me, that's very good news. I really very much enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5. It says, speaking with J-Wave News, Hideo Kojima confirmed while talking about development and how the team is adjusting the game as they proceed that Death Stranding is in fact an open world game, something that many speculated about but was never outright confirmed. Hideo Kojima has talked about the game's release date. Apparently the game has been slightly delayed from the planned release date, but not by that much. Last month, Best Buy revealed that Death Stranding is apparently releasing this year. Official confirmation hasn't come in on the matter, but if the game indeed releases this year, we will definitely hear some more about it in the next few months. With Sony skipping E3 this year, however, we may not hear much about the game coming this June. So definitely some interesting pieces of information there. First of all, I think it's really good to finally know whether or not Death Stranding is an open world game, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, I haven't been following this game that closely, but I'm pretty sure a while ago Kojima said it was like an action type game, which obviously it's going to be, but I think a lot of people took that as it's going to be more linear, maybe something closer to Uncharted or even God of War. But now he has confirmed that it is an open world game, and based off of the last trailer we saw, I think that makes sense. It looked like there was a lot of open space, and I personally enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5's open world. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting, but I think the way they handled it, considering the type of story they were trying to tell, it was done pretty well. For me, Metal Gear Solid 5, the weakest aspect of it was definitely the story itself. It was weaker, in my opinion, than other Metal Gear games, but the gameplay more than made up for that. It was a fantastic gameplay experience, and it was very interesting to play a open-world Metal Gear Solid game. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Death Stranding, considering it seems like he's just going crazy, letting loose with this game. It's going to be super interesting to see what this open world will be like, especially considering how many weird things we've seen so far. That's not to say that we haven't seen very weird things from the Metal Gear Solid series, because we definitely have, but it just seems to me that Death Stranding is taking it possibly to another level, which I'm actually pretty excited for. I like that weird stuff, as long as it's not like, even, you know what? Even if it is ridiculously over the top, it's dependent on how it's executed. But moving on to the more significant piece of information here, I believe, has to do with the fact that Death Stranding is apparently behind schedule, and it's going to be delayed, I guess, internally, which is interesting because there has never been a release date set for Death Stranding, and this is smart, I think, because when things like this happen, studios can internally delay games, but it's not too bad for the public, because if there's something that always upsets gamers, even though it's necessary, I believe, is when we have a release date for a game, we have it locked in, we're anticipating it, and then it gets delayed. Very disappointing. But in this case, I think it's good that we haven't gotten a release date, and even though there has been a lot of speculation it's coming in 2019, hearing that it's running a little bit behind schedule, I wouldn't expect this game to drop in 2019, honestly. A lot of people are saying it's going to be a cross-gen title. It's actually going to release on PS5 and PS4, which is definitely possible. I don't think anybody would be surprised if that happened. But the most important thing I want to say here is that this is completely okay. I'm completely okay with this. I honestly feel that somebody like Hideo Kojima, considering the type of games he makes, take as long as you need. Take your time. I mean, of course, they have to create deadlines. I believe something he did also say during this interview was that he likes to have deadlines because it feels as though it helps him and his team work more efficiently and productively, which just makes complete sense. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to freak out and lose their minds if they're not going to hit that deadline. And we've seen many other studios and publishers make the big mistake of pushing games out. Actually, it happens way more frequently these days than we care to talk about, but it's just the truth. We've seen them push out games that are just simply not ready, that needed to have more time in the oven, right? And so for me, thinking about Death Stranding, thinking about my expectations for a Hideo Kojima game, and the first game that's not going to be, or at least the first big game, post Metal Gear Solid, post Konami. Take all the time you need, don't rush anything. Don't worry about hitting a deadline or not. I don't care if I have to wait till 2021 at this point to play this game, because all that matters in the end, and this is just the truth, all that matters in the end is that it's a great game. It's a great experience. I would rather wait as long as I need to get a great experience than have something come sooner knowing or knowing it's going to potentially be half-baked, or something that's just a letdown or disappointment, or just has problems with it. The thing I'm getting really tired of these days with the way gaming is people saying, well, just wait, oh, it's just a foundation, just wait. Like, I don't want to hear that. I really don't. Like, if you're asking me for $60, I don't want to hear that I have to wait for the game to get to where it should be day one. And when it comes to single-player games, which I think it's safe to say Death Stranding, even though I think it may feature some type of multiplayer or passive multiplayer, it's definitely going to be mostly a single-player game, and I think that's how most gamers are going to be approaching it. When it comes to single-player games, they need to be complete, man, and I have no doubt that with Kojima and what he's produced in the past, and him being under Sony producing a PS4 exclusive, they are going to ensure, and this is where I have the utmost faith. I don't need to have hope or have any type of anxiety that it's gonna it's gonna be a broken mess at launch, or it's just gonna flop or whatever. I don't have to have that fear, because I know that between these two, between Kojima Productions and between Sony and the way they handle their games, they're gonna take the time they need to make sure this game is 110% ready to go before they launch it and before they announce a release date. So To me, I know it sounds weird, but I think this is good news. Obviously it's not good news that it's behind schedule, but to me it just shows that they're willing, at least as of right now, to take the time needed. They're not out here giving us release dates and then delaying it 3 times and leading us on, and they're not. To me, it doesn't seem like they're trying to overhype it either. They haven't been showing the game too much. I would say, though, that we are at a point where people are getting a little bit antsy when it comes to a game like Death Stranding. But if I had to speak for most gamers, which I'm not trying to do, but if I had to, I think I could safely say that most gamers, the majority of gamers, feel the same way I do, in the way that, you know what, it's okay. Just take your time. Make sure the game's ready. Release it when it's ready. Does it suck to have to wait? For years and years, yeah, but at the same time, if it's going to be a worthwhile experience, that's what matters in the end. And what I'm going to end this video with is a lot of people, and I think this is kind of important, blends in with what we're talking about here. A lot of people always talk about, not just PlayStation's exclusives, but single-player games in general, but it's been more so with PlayStation exclusives because PlayStation is out here releasing single-player, story-driven, narrative-heavy, single-player only experiences, no multiplayer, no microtransactions, not for all of their games, but a lot of them. And a lot of people, say things like, oh, they're just one and done, or they're just 8 to 10 hour, 12-hour experiences, and then you'll never play them again. But I think the most important thing to argue here and to understand is that it doesn't matter how long the experience is. Like if Death Stranding, like if I wait like 5 years for Death Stranding, or 6 years, or whatever, and I pay $60 for that game, and I only get 10 hours out of it, but those 10 hours are some of the best I've had in gaming, that means more to me than 1,000 hours on a multiplayer game that's just there for, pure entertainment and just, to kind of pass the time. That's how I look at it. So I don't know why so many people, to each their own is what I say, but I think people need to try to understand that the reason why people are okay paying $60 for these single-player linear experiences in some cases, or shorter experiences. It's about the experience. It's not about the time. Like, you can spend 50 hours in a game grinding, but is that going to be on the same level when it comes to meaningfulness as playing, a game like The Last of Us through the story? I don't think so. Maybe to some people, but not for me. Anyway, that's going to do it for the video, guys. It's turning out to be a little bit longer than I wanted to. So at this point, I'm going to ask you, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you excited for Death Stranding? Let me know why or why not. What do you think about this news that it is going to be an open world game and that it's running slightly behind schedule, but not by too much? When do you think the game's going to release? I will be interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you did enjoy it. Lets me know you guys are enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and share the video out on top of all that because it really helps as well. But until next time, guys, take care.